It was a beautiful day, and Thomas was transporting some digging equipment. Nearby, Tom Moss the prank engine was having a little giggle to himself. He'd done something naughty again, which Thomas would soon find out. Meanwhile, Thomas had to halt his journey. The path he was going to take was closed. "Oh well," said Thomas, "I've never been the other way before. I'm sure it will be fine." And on he went. The track led to a strange tunnel. When Thomas emerged, he had no idea where he was. He was in some dark, scary world, and he had no idea how to get back. Suddenly, Thomas could hear a distinctive laugh nearby. Tom reversed down the tunnel, with Thomas in pursuit. When Thomas emerged, he stopped. He was relieved to be back, but he couldn't see Tom anywhere. Was that a bad dream? He wondered. But the dinosaur marks on his sides were definitely real. So Thomas left to deliver the equipment. Once he'd done that, he was desperate for a wash to put this whole thing behind him. I'm Dave, and thanks for watching my video, which featured the Thomas Spooky track set from Fisher-Price. The track is slightly smaller than the regular Trackmaster track, and it has a different connection. However, it does come with an adapter to the old brown Trackmaster track. The set comes with a special, also slightly smaller, Thomas. Thomas tilts the track and then goes through the dinosaur cave. He then passes the green lever, which resets the track, and finally he goes through the spooky purple house, whose arm falls when Thomas emerges.
There was a storm brewing on Sodor. The engines were busy, hoping the worst of the storm would miss them. The rain started, and the storm was getting nearer. Then there was trouble. A bolt of lightning struck the track on top of the bridge. The track came apart and the ballast under the rails fell onto the track below. Percy was just about to pass, saw the ballast, braked but couldn't stop. He left the rails, almost saved himself, then toppled over. Poor Percy. By chance, Thomas came along on the other track. "Percy, are you all right?" "Yes, just the wrong way up," said Percy. "I'll get some help," said Thomas. "Oh dear," said a passing Gordon. Thomas went to warn Gordon. "Gordon, don't!" But it was too late. Gordon had derailed on the bridge. It was lucky the track didn't collapse and bring Gordon crashing to the ground, but he was stuck. "Don't just stand there, Thomas," shouted Gordon. "Go and get some help." Thomas steamed off. On another part of the island, the Paw Patrol Lookout Centre were keeping watch, and their periscope had found the accident. "I think your services may be required here, Rubble," said Marshall. Thomas came steaming along, pulling Rocky the crane. The storm had now passed. They pulled up by Percy. "We'll get you up right, Percy," said Rocky. "What about me?" said Gordon. "No, not you yet," said Thomas. "We need to move Percy first, just in case you fall on him while you're being moved." "How reassuring," said Gordon. Thomas moved Rocky into position. Rocky and Thomas together were strong. "Hurry up," shouted Gordon again. Very soon, Percy was back on the rails and left. Thomas steamed round to Gordon. "OK, Gordon, we're ready now, except we can't reach you. But don't worry, help is on the way," and with that they moved back. Help was indeed on the way in the shape of the massive digging rig's crane Buster. Buster arrived and got into position. His arm pushed the track that Gordon was on upwards. With Buster supporting the track, Gordon could move off the bridge. He came round and thanked Buster and then continued on his journey. Buster used his welding attachment to repair the track. Thomas thanked Buster and off he went. "We just need to clear the track now," said Thomas to Rocky. And at that moment, Rubble arrived in his bulldozer. Thomas told him what had to be done, and he set to work. The track was soon cleared. Thomas thanked Rubble. Rubble left, and with everything now cleared up, Thomas left with Rocky. Good morning, Tom Moss. You're here at the pumpkin patch very early this morning. Are you looking for a pumpkin for your forest? No? then you must be up to something. Go on, go back to your forest. Later that day, Peppa Pig and her friend Pedro Pony were busy helping Thomas and his friends decorate Tidmouth's sheds, ready for Halloween. "There," said Peppa, "that looks good, but I'm sure we're missing something." "Well, we haven't got ghostly Percy," said Henry. "I think we need some walking skeletons," said Spencer. "What about a pumpkin?" said Gordon. "That's it," said Peppa. "We need a pumpkin." Thomas then said he knew of a pumpkin patch they could go to, and he steamed out of the sheds. Peppa and Pedro hopped on and off they went. At the pumpkin patch, Peppa and Pedro went looking for the right pumpkin. "This one's nice," said Peppa. "A bit small though," said Pedro. Then they turned around and saw the biggest pumpkin they had ever seen. "There, that's the one we need." They went over and tried to lift it, but it was far too heavy for them. "Don't worry," said Thomas. "I have a friend who can help us lift it onto my truck." A few moments later, a car motored up. "Wait a moment," said Peppa. That's Superman." Superman came over to the pumpkin and lifted it into the air, all on his own, walked over to the truck and put it down. "Thank you so much," said Peppa and Pedro. Thomas thanked Superman for coming as well. Peppa and Pedro got back on Thomas and off they went with a giant pumpkin. Back at the sheds, Thomas's tipping truck and a little help from Peppa and Pedro got the pumpkin rolling on the grass, and it came to a rest in exactly the right place. "Perfect," said Peppa, and they stood back and admired their work. "Is that your watch ticking?" said Peppa to Pedro. "No," said Pedro. "I haven't got a watch." "Oh, I wonder what it is." Then there was a loud explosion, and pieces of pumpkin flew everywhere. Laughter could be heard coming from behind the sheds. Peppa looked, and there in the distance she saw a green engine. "Tom lost the prank engine. What did you do to our pumpkin?" "I'll chase him," said Thomas, and he rushed out of the sheds and headed for Tom. Tom saw him coming and made a run for it back to his forest. Now we know why he was at the pumpkin patch, don't we? "Thomas, I'd like you to go on a special errand today," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Some treasure that was lost a long time ago has been found near the coast, but can only be reached by a brave train. Why don't you send a big brave engine like Gordon, sir?" said Thomas. "We don't need a train that's too heavy, you'll see why," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Thomas, Just be brave and trust in the rails." "OK, sir," said Thomas, and he steamed off nervously towards the coast. Thomas had never been down this track before. When he reached the sea, he stopped. There in front of him was the wreck of a ship that had floundered on the rocks many years ago. It had been badly broken up by the waves, but Thomas saw that his track had been built on the rickety mast that remained. He couldn't see the treasure, but knew he had to go up the track. He said to himself, "Be brave and trust the rails." He started, but soon stopped at the first level. So far, so good. He started again up the next steep section. "It's really high up here," said Thomas. "Don't look down, don't look down." And he moved to the very top. Thomas now had to look down. He saw the treasure, but also saw the rocks. The track also turned 360 degrees. "Trains aren't meant to do this," he said. But he didn't want to let Sir Topham Hatt down. He just remembered his words, "Be brave and trust in the rails." He moved forwards and dropped like a stone through the air. It didn't feel like it, but Thomas had actually stuck to the rails and collected the treasure on the way. "I made it! Amazing!" A parrot flew down from the ship onto the treasure and flew away again. "I must get back to Sir Topham Hatt," he said, and off he steamed. Thanks for watching our story set on the amazing new Thomas and Friends Trackmaster Shipwreck Rail set, which has been produced for the forthcoming film Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. We don't know the plot of the film, so we made our story up, but it is a fantastic set and functioned correctly every single time we used it, and reset itself with a clever anchor counterbalance for continuous play. A special thanks to the wonderful Thomas and Friends team at Fisher-Price who have allowed us to show you this set prior to general release. Can't wait for the film now. Anyway, thanks for watching. It was a snowy day and Thomas was busy exploring his new 5-in-1 track sets, when all of a sudden he came across an engine he didn't recognise. "Hello, I'm Thomas," said Thomas. "Who are you?" "Samson at your service," said the stranger, "and I'm here to help build the new dinosaur park at Olvstead Castle. Look, I've got some dinosaurs in my trucks." Thomas looked behind Samson, but couldn't see any trucks. What trucks?" said Thomas. Samson looked behind. "Oh no, where have my trucks gone?" "Don't worry, Samson," said Thomas. "I'll help you find them. They must have come uncoupled. They can't have gone very far." Thomas and Samson started searching all around the track for his dinosaur trucks, but couldn't find them anywhere. "They can't have vanished," said Thomas. "Let's keep looking." Then Thomas thought he saw something underneath the track, and coming down the hill slowed to a stop. No, nothing. But then he looked up, straight into the eyes of that naughty Tom Moss the prank engine. "That explains the missing trucks," said Thomas. "You've got them, haven't you?" Realising he'd been caught, Tom Moss sped out of the tunnel with the dinosaur trucks behind him. Samson watched from the track above as his trucks were pulled by Tom Moss, with Thomas giving chase. Then there was trouble. Going up one of the hills, Tom's wheels started spinning on the track. He hadn't had his wheels modified for the new track, and the extra weight of the trucks caused problems. Realising he was about to be caught, Tom uncoupled the trucks, which hurtled towards Thomas, stopping just in front of him. Tom sped off in the direction of his forest, knowing the trucks on the track had stopped Thomas. Meanwhile, Samson had caught up with Thomas and was so pleased to see his trucks. They coupled the trucks back onto Samson and he set off for Olstead Castle, proudly pulling the dinosaurs behind him. Thomas kept a lookout for that naughty Tom Moss, but I don't think he'll try the same prank twice. Do you? Percy was on his way to pick up a very important person. Why Percy, I hear you ask? Well, it's a long story. Sir Topham Hatt originally asked Spencer to go, but despite Thomas telling Spencer about how slippery and muddy the quarry route was, Spencer didn't listen. He slipped off the rails and got covered in mud, and had to return to get cleaned up. Unfortunately, the engine wash was being repaired, so Gordon was sent out. Gordon was quite careful to keep clean and even sheltered from a storm. But although the rain had stopped, a mudslide fell on top of him. He returned to the sheds to find the engine wash still being repaired, or not, as the case may be. Henry was then sent, but that naughty Tom Moss the prank engine had tampered with some signals, causing Henry to crash into James. Percy just happened to be passing, and Thomas asked him to take the royal coach and collect the very important person. And that's where we are now. Percy was nearing the coast and just had one tricky piece of track left. It was the area formerly known as Boulder Mountain, but the track there had collapsed a while back and a replacement had been built around the mountain and just over the rocks in the sea. Percy approached the sharp bend, unaware that one side of the new rails had been washed away in the storm. He turned the bend, couldn't stop, but tipped up and took the bend on 2 wheels. How did he do that? Back with 2 rails, he tipped himself upright again and carried on as though nothing had happened. Well done, Percy. the very important person was waiting at the country station. It was Prince Hans of the Southern Isles. He liked coming to this part of Sodor for a holiday to get away from it all, and was now on his way home. Percy approached and stopped. Prince Hans got on board, and Percy left for Knapford station. There, Connor was waiting to take him back to the mainland, and then onwards to the Southern Isles. The long bridge was easy for Percy, and he had an unadventurous journey back to Knapford. There a crowd had gathered to see the prince. Knapford was a busy station. Percy pulled in. The prince got out and thanked Percy. The crowd cheered and Percy left. Prince Hans climbed aboard Connor, and with more cheering, Connor left Knapford. What an eventful day! And the engine wash still hadn't been repaired. Thanks for watching our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and then have a look at another video by clicking one of these clips. See you soon!